I'm Dirty Bird's Chicken. Right now we're about to make some macaroni because I know y'all be struggling. I can tell because I've purchased some plates and the mac wasn't macking. So here we go. This is the dirty way. I'm not about to give y'all all my secrets and stuff. You don't have to pay for the cookbook for that. But I'm gonna just show you some basic stuff. Right now, we're making a half pan of macaroni. We have 1 can of evaporated milk and a half container or carton of heavy whipping cream. We have some cheeses. We have 4 different kind of cheese right here. You can make macaroni and cheese with whatever cheese blend you like. It's all about your preference. And I'm not even about to tell you what I got. If you really know, you know. Anyway, should I tell them what I got? Okay, great, because I'm not. All right, so I already had my burner going with my pot on here, just because it helps. Your pot's hot, it'll help your liquids warm up. It was on low though, it wasn't like piping hot. Your liquids will warm faster, your cheese will melt faster, you know. So I like to pour my liquids in first, and I cut down my cheese and melt everything until it's well incorporated. I do not make a roux. A roux is not absolutely necessary when preparing macaroni and cheese. I also don't shred my cheese. I cut it down in cubes or blocks and let it do what it does. Like so. And you know, if you're cooking for public consumption, you should have a glove on. However, we're not doing that here. We're just making this so you guys can learn how to make macaroni and cheese. So drop them right in there. Try not to splash your liquid all over the place. And I'm going to repeat this process literally for all the cheese that I have. I'll try to do it nice, even blocks so that everything can melt evenly and collectively. Now, whenever you do get your cheese in the pot, I don't know if you remember I was saying how I had my burner and pot on prior to pouring my liquids, and I had it on low. You want to then elevate the temperature of your pot to medium. So I had some slices. I cut those into squares as well. I'm going to add them to the pot, and you know, while I'm still getting my cheese cut down to put everything in here together, you know, you just want to do a nice stir. You do not want to let your cheese burn and stick to the bottom of the pot. That would not be good for you. And at this time, you want to add some seasoning. You want your seasoning to cook in here as well. Whatever seasoning of your choice. I do a salt, pepper, and like garlic. But again, the seasoning and the use, whatever cheese you use, is all about your preference. Once you get the technique down, you can perfect it and do whatever you need to do for yourself to curtail it to your own liking. So now when they ask you to bring something to the cookout, you know, you don't have to buy that that Stouffer's Mac or be the laughing stock when you come to the cookout or get invited anywhere. Now everybody will be asking you to bring the macaroni. Mac shouldn't really take you more than 30 to 45 minutes to make, and well, for a half pan, and for a full pan it shouldn't take you more than an hour to make, and that's including bake time. I'm not sure if you can see, but the cheese is starting to slowly melt down. Seasoning is incorporated. Now you want to put some seasoning in here and try not to be too heavy-handed, because as the cooking process goes, where you know you add the noodles and mix everything all together before it goes in the oven, you'll have the opportunity to add some more seasoning if it's needed. It's better to go light on the seasoning and be able to add seasoning to it as you go along, rather than to go too heavy and then it's too salty or it's overpowering or overbearing and you're not able to fix that once you do that. Please clean as you go. Please clean up as you go. It makes it easier when you're done cooking. While my cheese is going, I like to start my noodle water. That way, that helps keep you with the 30, 45 minute cook time on the Mac. Also, my oven is preheated. I like to do, all ovens are different. I typically do 400 degrees Fahrenheit on my oven when I'm doing my mac. Some people like 350. It depends on what your oven, you know, how your oven works for you. I'm gonna, again, start my noodle water. That way, by the time I'm ready to go to dump the cheese out, my water should be hot and ready for me to pour my noodles in. What once was a white liquid substance is now turning into a cheesy delicacy. All right, so we got our water pot on. Now, I'm not sure how you bake your mac. However, I like to use pans. You might have a casserole dish or something like that. Again, I don't like to have unnecessary cleanup or dishes at the end of when you're done cooking. So I use a foil pan. Again, this is our half pan that we're going to be using, standard pan. Cheese is almost done. I'm actually going to turn the burner off now, and it can just sit here, and the few little clumps will continue to melt down. Well, this helps keep it from getting super soupy while we're waiting for our noodle water to heat up. Go ahead and just switch over. I want to let this cheese just kind of sit for like a minute or two before I transfer it over into the pan that we're going to bake it in. And again, that's just because we still have a few little clumpy pieces that I would like to melt down some before transferring it. I'm not sure if you've ever scooped into someone's mac and you've got like a big hunk of like cheese. I hate that. I like everything to kind of be melted and just well incorporated or evenly incorporated. So that's why I do that. Alright, so our water is now boiling. So I'm opening up our boxes of noodles. Now your noodles, whatever noodles you want to use, it's again to your preference. Some people like elbow noodles. I actually prefer the little spirally noodles. Some people use like penne noodles. Again, it's to your preference. We're making a half pan, so I have 2 boxes, the equivalent of 2 pounds. I typically do use 1 whole pound and then a half. Sometimes a little bit more than half. Now you figure when the noodles boil, they'll enlarge some. So that's the breakdown on the pound and a half. All right, I'm using the same spoon because it's the macaroni and cheese. It's literally the same stuff. It's hot boiling water. I'm gonna stir the noodles when I put them in there. Now, you want your noodles to get cooked until they are al dente. Quick tip, if you set a timer for 11 minutes, once you put your pasta in, you don't even have to touch it. It'll cook perfectly to al dente. So, pasta's boiling. We're gonna let that sit for 11 minutes. I'm gonna throw this away. Said, all right, our 11 minutes is up. I'm gonna take this pot. Here's the key, another key factor. Pour a little noodle water in your cheese. It helps your noodle or the cheese adhere to your noodles. Now, remember, I was eyeballing a pound and a half of noodles to put in here to this cheese. So, sometimes that's too much, sometimes that's just enough. So I kind of fold the noodles in slowly so that I don't overflow or overfill the pan. I also don't want my noodle to cheese ratio to be incorrect. So I try to just do a little at a time. Not to mention we added that water in here. So I'm stirring. I'm noticing we need some more noodles. I'm gonna fold a little more in. And again, this is to your liking as well. If you like extremely cheesy mac, or like I definitely don't make soupy mac. If you're looking for a soupy mac and cheese recipe, baby, this is not the one. You can go ahead and skip. But If you're looking for like extremely cheesy macaroni, then you probably want to do or err on the less side when it comes to the noodles. I like my stuff to be full, cheesy, and well seasoned. So I don't know if you're able to see, but as I'm stirring, the cheese is starting to, you know, kind of come on the side a little bit, spill over on the edges. Now, because I have only a little bit of noodles left, I'm just going to go ahead and add these in here because that's not going to hurt anything. I'm going to make sure that I get all my noodles covered in the cheese sauce. And then I'm going to let this sit for like 5 to 8 minutes. Why do I let it sit? Because if I top my macaroni right now, as wet as it is, and stick it into the oven to bake, honestly, I don't know what the hell is going to happen because I don't do it. I let mine sit and thicken. But I honestly feel like it would be like soupy and just runny and not the consistency in which I like for my stuff to be. So hey, maybe if you are looking for the soupy mac, that might be how you make it. I don't know. But I'm going to let this sit for a few minutes, like 5 minutes. I'm going to let it cool down. I'm going to let it thicken. I'm going to let the cheese adhere to my noodles a little bit more. Once I do that, I'm going to taste it and see if it needs any more seasoning added to it before I top it with cheese and put it in the oven. So I'll be back in 5 minutes. All right, so we added a little bit more seasoning to our mac. I'm just patting it down because I'm weird. I'm gonna scoop the rest of this cheese off the spoon. You know, we don't want to waste anything. Sorry, but the economy is too messed up. Prices are way too high. Stick this in the sink here. And at this point, we are ready to top our mac. So I just have a shredded cheese blend. And you just want to make sure it's nicely covered. You don't want to do an abundance of cheese. It's enough to cover the top. Now, some people don't put any type of cheese on top of their macaroni, and I think that those people are sick in the head. You're supposed to put cheese on the top of the macaroni. You're not just supposed to put the macaroni in the oven with the top off, just naked, if you say. Like, no. Top your macaroni. This is grown macaroni. This is sexy macaroni. This is baked mac and cheese. Mac and cheese should be topped. You want to have just enough to cover everything. You shouldn't see any noodles. There should be no noodles showing. Your side should be topped really nice. I'll make sure we get an up close of it when I get done topping it for you, just so you can have an idea. And again, I'm not using an abundance of cheese. I'm slowly going back in and adding a little bit more as needed. I mainly pour it in the middle and then I work it out onto the sides. But again though, you know, this is all a preference thing. This is just my technique. Do you. Just make sure the shit look good and it tastes good. Macaroni is like the most important dish at any cookout, any gathering. And then you can't forget the parsley. Don't use them dried parsley flakes that come in the damn seasoning spice can. Baby, get you some, invest in some fresh parsley. Now yes, mine is already chopped up and it's in a container, but it's fresh. Look at that. Little delicacy. Comes out like little leaves. Not them dry ass fake flakes. Food or cooking is an art. You should treat it as such. And make sure you pour or put love into the food because people could taste that. And here we are. Mac and cheese before it goes in the oven. I'm going to put this in. I'll see you guys in about 25 minutes, depending on your oven settings. All right, now we're pulling the mac out. We do not have oven mitts, so I I have to do this a little sloppily. And here we are. Baked mac and cheese. And as you can see, when you use the fresh parsley, look at there. The leaves are still leafy on your mac. You hear that? Hard, but yet it's still soft. This is perfect. I like to use the ice cream scooper when I'm serving macaroni and cheese. However, this spoon will suffice. See how you break into it. Thank you for tuning in today. I appreciate it. You know, like, share, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. Look for us on social media at Dirty Birds Chicken, and share this video with anybody who might need some help making macaroni and cheese or cornbread.